What's good, y'all? It's your boy Sean P. the Bluff Guy. Hey! And we are back with another One Piece reaction. Today, Adam will be connecting the dots between One Piece and the World Cup. Now, I don't know how. I don't understand. I don't get it. But he's going to do it, obviously. The title of this video is Oda is insane if these World Cup connections are true. Okay, all right. But before we get into this video, make sure you guys hit that like button. Also, subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. Comment down below your thoughts on the reaction, your thoughts on the video we reacted to. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? What did I miss? What about Adam? What did he get wrong? What did he get right? Let me know in the comments. Also, follow me on Twitch. Make sure you guys are following me on Twitch. I don't know why y'all not. Follow me on Twitch. That's where I do my streams. If you want to engage with me in real time while I'm reacting, make sure you're part of the Twitch, baby. Also, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook if you want to get at me directly and join the Discord where I'm more active. That's where I'm the most active at. So that's probably going to be the best place if you want to talk to me directly. It's going to be the Discord. Also, if you want to send me videos, that's going we have a channel in the Discord for that. And if you want to be part of a future discussion stream, be part of the Discord. Yes, I do include members of my Discord in my discussions. It's free game. It's free game. So if you're a YouTuber and you want to be part of a discussion stream, make sure you're part of my Discord. I can't even get that out. All of these will be in the description box below, as well as the video we will be reacting to today. So make sure y'all show Adam some love. Adam is going to be connecting the FIFA World Cup with One Piece. Now, I want to preface this, right? I want to preface this before I really go into the reaction. I don't see how it's connected. Like, I don't think Oda, like, I already kind of have a bias against whatever this theory is. I mean, I don't know if it's a theory or anything, but this idea that the World Cup is connected with One Piece, I already kind of have a bias against that because I don't think Oda had enough foresight to consider the 2022 World Cup into his story. So if that is the case, Oda is an alien or something. he is an alien or something. So I don't get how you could connect this year's World Cup with One Piece, the story of One Piece, something that's been going on for over 20 years, with something that happened recently, like, you know, within the last couple months, right? So I don't see it. Like, I already, you know, and I know I didn't let Adam explain his piece yet, but I just want to put that out there because, you know, I don't, you know, look, Adam's my guy. You know, you know, Adam's my guy, but I don't want people thinking that I'm just going to go with whatever theory or whatever videos I come across every time. Because, you know, no, I don't always agree with every video I watch or every theory I hear, you know, but I like to give people the benefit of the doubt as well. And I don't like to, I'm trying to think of a word for it because I don't want to say shit, but I don't like to just dump on people's theories, especially YouTubers. You know, we're YouTubers, we create these theories and stuff and put a lot of work into our content. So I don't like to dump on people's theories, and I'm not going to dump on Adam's theories. So don't get the wrong idea. But I don't always agree with every theory that comes across my thing. I just don't dump on it either. You know what I'm saying? I try I try to connect. I try to see connections in these theories. But this one, I don't see how the World Cup is going to be connected with One Piece. I just don't. And I just want to let you guys know that now before going into the theory, because I'm already kind of like, I'm a little against this idea that Oda somehow connected this story with One Piece. You know what I mean? Like, maybe Oda is a fan of soccer though, right? Maybe he's a fan of soccer. That's what we call it in the States. A lot of you guys in different countries might call it football. You know, we call our football is different from, you know, soccer. So that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. But maybe Oda is a big fan of soccer, and maybe he has connected some soccer players and some key pieces of soccer with One Piece. But if this is strictly talking about the World Cup, if that's what we're going with, the World Cup, the 2022 World Cup, I don't see how Oda can have the foresight enough when he was writing some of like the characters, some of the abilities, the devil fruits, the story plots, all these different things. I don't see how he connected with something that just happened. You know what I mean? That just recently happened. I don't see it. But we're going to let Adam explain himself, you know, and without any further ado, let's get into the video.
Hello, my name is Adam Jim Rakai, and in this video I thought with the FIFA World Cup and everything starting last weekend that there was a great time to kind of show some of the wackier connections I've found between Nika and actually the FIFA World Cup, and in particular the former Argentinian superstar Diego Maradona. And I know that that sounds absolutely bonkers, so just as a, you know, just a little teaser for some of the rest of the video towards the end, the name Maradona of Diego Maradona actually means Lady of the Sea, which I think could be a huge reference to the Lady of the Lake and where Excalibur and came from for King Arthur.
Is Maradona like an old player, or is he like playing in the league right now? Like, is he a current player of soccer or football, you know, or soccer, whatever you guys want to go by? Is he a current player or is he an old player? Because Adam said that this video was based on the FIFA World Cup from 1986. And if that's the case, is he like a player from 1986 or is he a current player? You know what I mean? Because the fact that this World Cup is from 1986, then, you know, I kind of take back what I said earlier, you know, because, you know, then it makes sense for Oda to, I guess, possibly have used that World Cup in adding to his story.
Arthur and all that stuff. And just like how King Arthur was literally kind of chosen by God by being chosen to wield and pull out the sword Excalibur from the stone, I believe that who the straw hat is worn by is a very similar type of chosen by fate or God or Oda, Goda, whatever.
I do like how you pointed out the straw hat, because I do think there is significant importance with Luffy's straw hat, right? Because I think Oda needs to give us a backstory. This might sound stupid. This might sound ridiculous, but I legit, and I've said this before. I think I've said this like a couple years ago, matter of fact. I've said this before. I think Oda needs to give us a backstory on the straw hat. Because I believe there is a lineage behind the straw hat. I've even said I think there's two people that usually carry the straw hat. You have the inheritor, and then you have the person who passes the will on, right? And what do I mean by that? Like, you got the person who's meant to carry the hat because they inherited the will of whoever worn the hat before, be it Luffy, right? Luffy and Goldie Roger, they're inheritors of the will or inheritors of the hat. And then I think Shanks is more of a, I don't think Shanks is an inheritor. I think Shanks is somebody who passes the hat on. I think Shanks, his job is to find I think his job was to find the person who is meant to inherit that or carry that hat and carry the will of that hat, which we seen him give it to Luffy, right? So that might say that maybe Goldie Roger was given that hat by somebody who was meant to just pass that will on, right? So that's my theory on the Straw Hat, that there is the inheritor and then there's the passer. I mean, you could probably find better words than that. That those are just kind of words I kind of thought of off the top. But yeah, so I think we should get a backstory on the Straw Hat. I think it would be dope, right? Because I think that Straw Hat, we've been with that Straw Hat just as long as we've been with Luffy. So it's like, I mean, we know how important it is to him and where he got it from.
Symbol. And now to kind of tie into all that stuff, in Japanese, the name Oda means small rice paddy, which I think has huge ties to kind of the self-cleaning processes of rice paddy fields and their ties to artificial catfish and carps and all that stuff. But I will have future videos on that thing. But in Hebrew, Oda actually means, the name Oda actually means praise God. And also, of course, too, in Norse, Oda actually meant point. So all of this with the name.
So what you're saying is when we call Oda Goda, right? God Oda, you know what I'm saying? Y'all know why we call him Goda. We are saying praise Oda, right? We praising God. Oda, no, I'm joking. Or we could be talking about Usopp back in Dressrosa. They was Oda and Usopp, I guess. That's weird. That's a weird term to use. They was Oda and Usopp, because Oda stands for praising God, right? They was praising God Usopp.
Oda, I think, is kind of referencing Oda and how in the story he kind of, obviously as the writer, has chosen the main character and has chosen the character designated by fate to kind of save the world in some way. But more importantly, I think that he's actually referencing a goal from the FIFA World Cup in 1986 known as the Hand of God. And so if I haven't lost you already, this would be a great time to say please like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff on the video. My name is Jin Rakai, and this video is kind of going to be dealing with some of the craziness tied between.
Y'all go follow and show Adam some love. The link will be in the description.
Nika and being chosen by the Hand of Goda. Now, something I actually think that's really kind of funny and interesting with that whole Hand of God idea is the letters, make hog, okay? And if you ever looked at the gum fruit in as depth as I have, in the anime and all the official anime images or whatever, when we look at the top of the stem, we actually see that there.
Adam, you from Ohio? I seen like Ohio license plate on that scooter, so I'm just curious. You from Ohio? Yeah, man. I don't know if we could be friends, Adam. I'm from Pennsylvania, so it's like, my Steelers and your and them Cleveland Browns ain't too friendly together.
There are two little slits in the nose part that look extremely like the snout of a hog or a pig. And now while I do think that there's a huge chunk of the straw hat that kind of ties into pagan flower crowns and kind of being designated as a sacrifice in some way or some sort of a fuel to be used as a, fuel for a fire, and maybe sadly kind of tying into the idea of sacrificial cows or pigs at the altar or offerings to God in some way like that, and especially tying into the old pagan rituals of May Day queens, and tied to the idea that the straw hat wearer may be in some way tied to kind of a torch bearer, maybe in relation to like the Olympic flames and stuff. I talk more about that in this video here if you want to check out more about the Olympic flame torch bearer thing being tied to the fuel of the straw hat. But
it's why you mentioned a torch, like the torch, right? And it just made me think about that flame that it made me think about the flame that Vegapunk was constantly talking about, that eternal flame and creating an eternal sun, or that power source. Y'all remember the power source, right? That help him create an eternal sun. I do got a theory about that. I think they turn like I've said it. I think they eternal. I think whatever that power source that Oda was or that Vegapunk was talking about, it might be in at Laugh Tale. It might be the One Piece, or it might be part of the One Piece, possibly. I don't know. But it coming from Vegapunk made me think that it's super important. And the fact that he's saying like it, he's treating it like if there was that eternal sun, it would solve a lot of the world's problems. Just saying.
You were serious about that?
I think all of that is something, but I think that's just one half of it. Maybe that's like the moon half of the, Straw Hat symbology. This video is going to be dealing with much more of the positive aspect of it and kind of some funner ties that it has, especially to the FIFA World Cup, which we've seen all over the place.
Is that what's his name from Queen? I forget his name. The lead singer. I forget his name. Yeah, him.
That Oda really loves soccer. And from the very beginning, when it comes to Luffy and wanting to be a captain, it's never really sat right with me because he really doesn't want to control or dictate or conquer most things. He just kind of wants to be free and have fun and all that stuff or whatever. But I believe that him wanting to be a captain is kind of all tied to this soccer idea and this football captain position. And then in pre-timeskip especially, he constantly kind of wore an armband in the exact position where the captain's armband goes on a soccer team. And I believe that that's all a reference to this FIFA World Cup Diego Maradona Hand of God thing, which is what we're going to get into now. And now Zoro has also worn an armband in that same exact soccer football captain spot as well.
That Zoro armband, that's like his scarf that he always wears, because he always takes it off, and then when he gets serious, he takes off the armband and he puts it on his head. It look like a do-rag. You got do-rag Zoro, even though it's like a bandana more so. But yeah, he usually put that on when it's time for a serious fight, though.
Well, which I think is a huge clue to kind of, sadly, the final villain of the whole series once he's unlocked and awakened in some way. But we're not going to be touching on that here. We're going to be touching on more of the fun aspects of this FIFA World Cup and the Golden Boy Nika clues, all tied to Diego Maradona. And not so much the hidden bounty hunter of the series who literally builds up his prey to be at its peak and most ripe.
You were serious about that?
And I'm totally just kidding. I think that that's much more in line with what maybe Nami is being forced to do. I actually think when it comes to Zoro, I think that Shanks may be claiming his missing left arm back in some way, and perhaps maybe taking Zoro's at some point for the endgame. But we'll touch more on Shanks in a second.
I think I went too.
Oh, you said Shanks taking Zoro's arm? Oh man, that's
far funny. With this one. I have to go
taking Zoro's arm. That'd be
today.
Wow.
What am I supposed to tell people in line? I had good news and bad news. Come on, Craig. Get your life together.
Now, in Robin's introduction, she actually wears a armband on her left arm as well, which I think is a huge clue to the various parts and aspects of, creator gods and deities and joy boys and all this sorts of stuff. And you have to check out my next video that I'm working on after this one, which is my...
Adam, I think what you should look at is the left eye, right? You gotta focus on the eye, the left eye, right? Cause you look at Jaya, right? I think like Jaya had like the missing part was like the left eye, and then we got all those cover pages with Luffy always like blinking his left eye or covering his left eye. Is it the left eye or is it the right eye? It's the left eye, yeah. Zoro's left eye is cut if I remember correctly. Just saying, man. Left eye, man. I think you looking at the left arm, man. We gotta look at the left eye though. But for the sake of this theory, maybe the left arm is the more relevant body limb to talk about.
My idea of evil thing, where I kind of go into that and kind of how in this cover, all those three aspects of captains might be vying for control here in the background. And I think there's many other characters. Nami wears one for a while. Vivi wears one for a while. All the Straw Hats kind of have that X mark the spot on their arm in Alabasta. Yeah. I think that the captain armband thing is huge. But Luffy's, I think, is the biggest, especially since his was actually literally called Captain John's treasure map armband thing. I think all kind of referencing this.
I got a question. Ace, right? Ace had that tattoo where it said Ace. It said was it ASCE? Where it was like Ace, Sabo, Crybaby, and then the S was like crossed out, kind of saying like Sabo, since Sabo passed. It was something along that line, right? Is that on his left arm or was that on his right arm? You know what I mean?
This football signature. And I think actually what's a much more important question than who all in the series has worn one of these armbands is, in Chapter 1 with Shanks, did he lose his captain armband? Or was the armband that's used to bandage up his arm after losing it saving Luffy, was that him gaining a captain's armband? We'll touch on that in other videos.
You were serious about that?
I have been reading One Piece for over 2/3 of my entire life. Or over 20 years now, I have been reading the One Piece manga. And when chapter 1018 came out, where we first found out the name of Nika, and we were first kind of told an official legend about this sun god Nika. It didn't take long for the obvious connections of the Nika being tied to the Nike, or Nika, Greek god of victory, Greek goddess of victory. But I've kind of...
Bro, I'm sorry. It's just, I noticed something that's a little disturbing about this picture that you got on screen. The picture of the angel or whatever it is, right? If you look at his shirt, right? I don't even want to say it. I don't want to say it because then it just shows where my mind is. My mind is in the gutter. But if you look at his shirt, right? You look at this angel in his shirt and you see like it's like he got these things going down his shirt. What do they look like to y'all? Huh? I just want to know if it's just me that sees it or if y'all see it, because I definitely see it. You know what I'm saying? But it's like 4 things going down his shirt. And it just looks a little unsettling. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me know down in the comments what y'all see, if y'all see something. Because I see something that's a little disturbing. I'm just saying. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. But it's a little disturbing. It's a little, ew, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe it's just me though. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just got a dirty mind. You know what I mean?
Looking into this the last couple weeks, it's pretty hardcore. And I found some really funny kind of ties to this Nika thing, which we're going to go over in this video. And I guarantee you haven't seen this stuff anywhere, but it's so crazy. Just give the video a chance because it's hilarious. And I think personally, it is probably one of the biggest things being hinted at with the Nika stuff. Now, on the One Piece wiki, for the Nika page, they have all sorts of ties and trivia about what the Nika connection may be and where the word may come from. And I think all those are valid. The idea of a sun god.
I'm sorry. I gotta get my chance to laugh because I'm sorry. Like just thinking about that, I can't even focus on the theory because. All right. Let me focus. Let's go. Focus.
God, this thing with the trees, a toothy grin. I think all of these are extremely valid and in some way are being touched on with the idea of this Nika fruit or this Nika sun god character that Oda has come up with. But we're just going to focus on the idea of Nika and victory. This tie between the name Nika, Nike, and victory, and playing sports and having a winner and a loser. Now, according to that same One Piece wiki article, Nika is an alternate way to say Nike. Well, whatever.
And when you think about it, right, you know, like Nike's slogan is "Just do it," right? And then when you look at Luffy, his personality, whenever something needs done, Luffy just does it, right? Like he just does it. You know, if he wants to go to the island, he just does it. You know, Luffy literally embodies the slogan of Nike. You know.
I'm just going to say Nike for the sake of this video, but looking at the Nike shoe logo, it's obviously a parallel to the winged shoes of Hermes, okay? Which makes a lot of sense because I think in the One Piece community, there's so much emphasis placed on the perhaps magical abilities of the Straw Hat, and we've never once taken time to consider where Luffy's straw sandals have come from. and how he's always had those. They seem to be able to withstand tremendous amounts of wear and tear, and they followed Luffy on his journey the entire time, and all sorts of stuff tied to those. And even going back to when Kaido originally said, you know, Luffy couldn't be Joy Boy, and I do not really believe that Joy Boy and Nika are 100% connected, but Kaido seemed to equate Joy Boy and the idea of not being able to walk on the sky as something to
So I get, like, when Adam, you told me about the sandals, right? When I was talking about the straw hat, I get why there's importance of them, right? Like I don't believe that the sandals themselves have any any grand history or anything. I don't know if I agree with you on that aspect, but I can see the connection of how Hermes, how Luffy, like, you know, Hermes has sandals, the wing sandals, and then Luffy wears sandals. So I get how the sandals do connect him to Hermes, though. I just don't know if I think the sandals have any grand importance in the story. But I can see how the sandals could be like symbolic to connecting Luffy with Hermes, you know, based on your explanation, right? So I can see why you brought up the sandals, you know what I mean? I just don't think, like, when I brought up the straw hat about, like, there being a history, like historic relevance in the story of One Piece, like the straw hat has that. I don't think the sandals does, or I don't think the sandal have like that historic relevance in the like history of One Piece. But I think maybe it's more of a symbolic relevance where like kind of how you're connecting Luffy with Hermes. Maybe Oda was just, you know, it was more of a design choice to connect Luffy with Hermes a little closer. So I can kind of agree with you on that aspect, right? Especially if Oda does want to connect Luffy with Hermes. So yeah, I kind of get where you're going with that now.
To me, the moment where he dropped Luffy and said you can't be Joy Boy either, he is saying that after, you know, for sure seeing that Luffy cannot fly or float in this moment at least, which I think could be huge, especially kind of playing with the idea that Nika can kind of be an anagram and all this stuff for Anakin in terms of like Anakin Skywalker or Anakin Starkiller. But going back to the word Nika, looking at these word definitions, and that's kind of the bread and butter, as my friend Elson always says, a thesaurus is a treasure. The words mean the same thing and they break down to be the same words. And looking at the origins of the ancient Greek word Nike, we get a word Viking, which looks a lot like Viking, which used to mean victory. Now, that word's definition was things won in victory, the fruits of victory, and the upper hand or the advantage, okay? Now, keep that in mind. So looking into the word victory, it mainly stems from the name Victor, which means conqueror, vanquisher, or the victor, winner, champion, stuff like that. So I think the idea of conqueror's hockey and all this stuff is being, you know, kind of hinted at with this Nika name and everything with Victor. And looking a little bit deeper into the definition of victory, it can mean three.
If I have a son, I might name him Victor. You know, I want my child to be a winner, so I'm gonna name him Victor, man. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that.
Things, you know, an instance of having won a competition, the condition of having succeeded in a conflict or an effort, but it also can refer to a winged figure representing victory, which was common in the Roman official iconography. And the Wiktionary page offers up to bring you to a page of a piece of art from ancient Greece called the winged victory of Samothrace, or it's called the Nike of Samothrace. Now, this statue is, you know, a great work of art. It's been in the Louvre. It's been all over the world, seen all throughout, you know, since it's been made, basically. But the monument itself, if you count the kind of rock...
I'm curious, like this sculpture or the statue, right? Was it originally made with one wing, or was it like, did it have two wings and somebody broke one of the wings and now it just got one wing? I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious. Was it made like this, or was it like somebody broke it and now they just got one wing? You know,
rock base at the bottom is 5.57 meters tall, which all those numbers are obviously very tied to Luffy when we look at all these things and stuff. But this idea of a winged, and I would argue that this winged victory stuff could be a thinly veiled reference to the idea of being chosen by above or by gods to be the victor, like being chosen from high to be victorious against your enemies type deal, is what I believe this statue, could be representing, or at least.
Hey, so I never noticed that Luffy wore that when he was a kid. He wore a shirt that said 56, and then in the Coliseum in Dressrosa, his number was 0556. So I guess there's some. I'm assuming there's some significance in the number 56, maybe even 556. What my question would be for especially you manga experts, right? You guys who look up, manga chapters and connect them and everything. What chapter, right? What was the title of chapter 56, and what was the title of chapter 556, right? Like, what was the title and what were they about? What important things, like, how can you connect those two chapters? Cause I feel as though now there had to be some level of connection, because I've seen so many times people connecting chapter numbers and connecting them with other chapter numbers, and so somebody go look up chapter 56 and then go look up chapter 556. And y'all could share it in the Discord. Let me know in the Discord. Yeah, let me know. I'm curious. I'm curious what those chapters are, or about. Adam said originally it was in the streets of Rome and was vandalized. Oh, okay. So it didn't always have one wing. Makes sense.
At least what Oda might be viewing it as, in regards to the context he's using for the naming of Nika.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it'll last.
Going back to that word that looked a lot like the Viking word, Viking, the act of winning, and then a subcategory of the definition is the upper hand or an advantage. Now, I think the idea of God kind of choosing the victor and fate and luck being forms of God showing favor or choosing the victor in the One Piece story is at play to every extreme it can possibly be. That seems to be at play with fate choosing to help out Luffy throughout the story. But I think it could be referencing something even crazier. Now, I personally think that all of these pineal gland things that I think are at the bottom of the Nika figure's foot, I think that all of this stuff is, a representation of the enlightenment and knowledge of the sun. But right now in the One Piece world, it's kind of been turned on its head and it's used as a weapon.
I want to say this. Based on last chapter, right? When we seen Luffy, like, create goggles from his hair, like he literally just created goggles just out of his hair and then put them on. It made me think, like, what if Luffy just like grew some wings on his feet, right? Like, like we talking about like having winged feet, right? Winged sandals. Like, what if Luffy is able to create like winged feet, and then in a way though, Luffy can he can fly. Like in Gear 4 form, he's able to fly by using his feet as like propulsion almost, like he's like using his ability to contract in what's the other word where it's like the opposite of contract. He's just kind of like contracting and uncontracting and then creating like a propulsion, right? So we seen him do that in Gear 4. So in Gear 5, we don't really see him do that because he, does. Can he do it in Gear 5? Probably. But if he wants to get around and fly, he would probably have to do the contracting thing again, which I don't know if Gear 5 form is ideal for that. Or maybe he could create some wings on his feet. Or he could just create wings on his back or something. That's another option as well. But, it's just a thought.
Used as kind
And if that happens, if that does happen, then Adam, you might really be on to something. Just saying.
of a force to keep the oppressors above. The Nika coming down with the spear. When it comes to symbolism, swords can mean lots of things. Shields can mean lots of things, not always attack or not always, something violent with both of those. But a spear or an arrowhead are usually pretty universally weapon symbols. And I personally think that spear idea is getting touched on here with the Nika silhouette. Now, I also think it's a huge reference to Stanley Kubrick and Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Atomic Bomb.
Hello? Hello, Dimitri. Listen, I can't hear too well. Do you suppose you could turn the music down just a little?
And we got that in the Reverie. There's a complete recreation of the shot of the nations in the war room at the Reverie with all of the various nations and the kings of each power kind of sitting at this table. The shots look very similar. And I think the idea of kind of riding a nuclear bomb to mutually assured destruction is what, at least the old forms of what Nika maybe did in the story, and maybe exactly what happened in the past when the two sovereigns or whatever met, which I do think one version of was, perhaps the meeting of the Earth and the Sun, or the Earth and the Moon, which would kind of annihilate all Earth on the surface for the most part in the, any world, but the One Piece world probably too. But Oda, we know he's a sports fan, okay? And when it comes to sports, there's usually always a winner and a loser. It doesn't take very long to see how much of a sports fan he is. It's on the first page of the One Piece manga. Oda's personal Jolly Roger sigil has these baseball lines on, and he's even introduced the idea of baseball-looking balls with the same stitching in the One Piece world in the Alabasta saga, when we saw that, Mr. Four's dog Lasso. Now, in the translations, the dog is noted as being his beloved pet, and the word beloved is also the same meaning that the name David has, and David kind of being a beloved, sort of favored agent of God who's equipped with weapons to deal with a monster and deal with some force, I think, really is at play here as far as, what's going on, especially with the name Lasso, kind of maybe the idea of putting a lasso around a celestial body and pulling it, forcing it to come and make contact with Earth, I think could be at play here. There's all sorts of crazy stuff.
You were serious about that?
But going along with the sports idea, as much as Oda loves baseball, he loves soccer the most. One of the first kind of author avatars he used with the Show and Jump stuff was him with a soccer ball head. He's had some covers of the Straw Hats playing soccer. And I think that soccer, I apologize to my European viewers. I'm an American. I watch American football. So to me, I call that football, and then I call soccer soccer. I apologize. I do watch FIFA World Cup and all that stuff, but I call it soccer. I'm sorry.
Adam, no need to apologize. That's just the American thing. You can't, that's what we do. That's what we do. That's what we do. We call it soccer because football to us is NFL. You know what I'm saying? But in defense, soccer always been called football way longer than we've called the NFL sport football. And it makes more sense to call soccer football than what we call football because they actually play with their foot. The only time we play with our foot in our football is when we kick it, right? When we punt or kick a field goal. Most of the time we're carrying it, we're throwing it. Pretty much how it is, right? We're carrying it or throwing it.
But when it comes to soccer, there's one kind of play that stands above all other plays. One golden goal that has been immortalized, and that moment has been forever remembered in the history and annals of the World Cup lore. And that play is literally called the Hand of God. And now, I don't think it really takes too much imagination, but here's a picture of that play, and here's the Nika picture. To me, very similar, especially with the idea that maybe the background of a sun or the moon is the ball, and this figure is literally touching it or grabbing it, especially considering all the stuff Luffy seems to grab at the end of this arc after transforming into Gear 5. But let's look at this a little bit deeper because it's really going to blow your mind. This is some really crazy stuff, and the clues just kind of kept adding up, and I just had to make this video. So the Hand of God play was Argentina versus England in the 1986 FIFA World Cup, where Argentina was playing England, and Argentina actually ended up winning the FIFA World Cup this year after defeating England in this quarterfinal match. And Argentina won, and the majority of Argentina's national team's success when it came to soccer in the 80s was largely due to one of the greatest soccer players of all time, Diego Maradona, the Golden Boy. Now, Diego Maradona was the star player. He, troubled individual, very, very sordid history off the pitch. But when it came to playing the game of soccer, he's up there with Pele as regarded as one of the greatest of all time. And when it came to the FIFA World Cup in particular, that world stage is where Diego Maradona shined the brightest and played the best football of his career. But when it comes to the play itself, the actual Hand of God goal, let's take a look at this. Now, I'm not sure about all the copyright stuff, so I'm going to try to include the actual play. So let's take a look at it here. Now, for Diego Maradona, this game in particular is perhaps the greatest game that he's ever played, but maybe the greatest game that anyone's ever played in the history of the FIFA World Cup. But as important as the Hand of God goal is, actually, he has another goal in the game to win it, and that goal is called the goal of the century.
So he made the goal by like hitting it in with his hand. Isn't that like against rules? Is that even allowed to happen? I'm still confused because I thought, like I know you could use your head. I know you could use your head. You could use like your chest and stuff. But when you use your hand, isn't that like unless you're a goalie, I guess I know goalies could use their hands. They could catch it. They can swat it. They could do whatever. But I don't think he was a goalie, right? So like what did he use his hand to do, right? Like, did he score with his hand? Ain't that against like rules or something? I'm confused. Like, I'm not an expert in soccer or football, right? I'm not an expert in football, whichever one you want to call it. So y'all might have to enlighten me. I've played FIFA a little bit, so I kind of know a little bit about it. I know some basic stuff about it, but all I ever knew about soccer, aka football, is you don't really use your hands unless like you're a goalie and you're catching the ball, or you're like swatting it, like you're blocking a goal. You know what I'm saying? But as far as scoring, it looked like he like spiked the ball in or something based on all these images. So I'm confused. I'm a little confused how that was even allowed to happen.
So I mean, this entire game was loaded with crazy, memorable moments for the soccer world. But this is the first goal to go up 1-0 against England in the second half. And Diego Maradona is essentially going to almost single-handedly score against England. Now, it's going to be interesting, though, how he does it if you've never actually seen how exactly Diego Maradona scores this goal. So let's look at this play. Here's the play starts off. This is Diego Maradona. He repossesses the ball, dribbles it through some people. Now, actually, it's because of an error here by the defender. He actually pops the ball back to Diego Maradona, where he jumps higher than the goalie does and uses his left hand to bump the ball into the goal. Okay? Basically
like
using his hand to...
It kind of looked like he used his head a little. Like, I don't know, am I tripping? On here, it looked like he used his
Maradona,
head.
where he jumps higher than the goalie does and uses his left hand to...
How's that allowed, though? How is that even allowed? I don't get it. How's that? How can you just like, I'm gonna just spike this in the goal? Like, how's that allowed? I've literally seen guys like have to scissor kick the ball just to get it in if they had like to jump, because I don't know. he obviously is a professional, so you know he knew what he's doing. I don't know.
Bump the ball into the goal, okay? Basically using his hand to bat the soccer ball into the goal. A blatant act disregarding the rules and breaking, you know, the fundamental rule of...
Yeah, that's clearly illegal right there. Like, looking at this picture, that's clearly not what you're supposed to do. I mean, my man looked like it looked like he's shooting a jumper, like Steph Curry, boy. Steph Curry with the shot.
A soccer using your hand. Now this moment is super interesting because the picture even proves that Diego Maradona is touching the ball with his hand.
I see the pics. I see the pictures.
It's kind of one of those things. It's a good example of what I think we're talking about here, being chosen by God, because in this moment, in this Colosseum, the people have chosen the victor.
So, real quick, just to clarify things, I want to clarify things. So, was it that the referee didn't see him use his, like, whoever the referee who was able to call this, right? Because I think they usually have like a couple referees out on the field, like, you know what I mean? They have at least 2 or 3 or 4. So I don't remember. I don't know exactly how many refs they have on the soccer field, but I know they have more than one because such a big field to have to cover, right? So was it the ref not seeing that he used his fist, or did the ref just let it go because the importance of it? Like just one last bit of clarification. Did the ref not see it, so he didn't call it, or he didn't notice that he used his fist until like later? Or was it just like a clear, just like, hey, whatever, we'll let it go. It's important. Cause you can't be letting stuff like this slide. I mean, come on, that's clearly not how soccer is supposed to be played. So, you know, even if it's an important game, you don't let stuff like this slide. That's all I'm saying.
Victor with the cheers. And the moment is so big. Yes, this moment technically he was cheating. He touched it with his hand. But it was such a great, cool moment that it was allowed. The entire play and goal was so beautiful that, you know, a referee wasn't going to break it up even if they wanted to. And of course, the official story is none of the referees on the field had a proper view of that moment, so they couldn't quite see the hand touching it.
So y'all talking about him doing the hand of God? I think the angel that's covering the ref's eyes, those are the real hands. Those are the important hands of God right there, because they the ones that block the refs from actually realizing what happened. Shit.
Whether it was his head or not. But I think that idea is what Oda's kind of playing with when it comes to being chosen by God as the victor. That almost in a way, the magical amount of effort and luck involved in something, if the moment is, you know, kind of going back to the rule of cool idea, if the moment's great enough, it has to be. Even if to do so requires the help of or the interference maybe of a celestial being helping a favored individual. But it really gets crazier. Now, Maradona himself was actually quoted as saying that this...
Hey, y'all gotta let me know how the audience was, like the fans. Like, did the fans realize he cheated and the refs didn't? Because if the fans realize he cheated and the refs didn't, bro, y'all gotta hire different referees, because that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? How the fans notice and y'all didn't even notice?
This game was a symbolic revenge from Argentina against England over their loss in the Falkland Wars that actually happened in 1982, 4 years before this match. And actually, in 2005, considering all the stuff that maybe Joy Boy was in the future, or these poneglyphs were at least written to prophesize the future, when asked about the goal, Maradona's quote about being asked if he wanted to apologize to England for quote unquote cheating, he said, you know, so the story is already written. Nothing can change it. History is already written type deal. In regards to whether that goal and entire victory and game and validity of that entire World Cup for Argentina was warranted. Maradona's basically saying, you know, it's 20 years later, it is what it is. It happened already, which could be very similar to this prophecy.
Bro, at the end of the day, there's an old saying. It says it's not cheating if you don't get caught. So, I mean, he didn't get caught during what happened. So, you know, what can you do? What can you do? I mean, he still did cheat, though. You know, it's not like just because he ain't get caught. He ain't been the rules a little bit. So, I mean, I think he kind of does maybe deserve a little apology for not playing within the rules. But, I mean, you know, sports is always filled with people kind of bending rules here and there. So, you know, when you got sports where you got, like, a sport where people are always going to bend the rules a little bit here and there, like, they might foul without you, you know, they might do, like, a little extra foul. You know, you gotta kind of, you know, when somebody else do the same thing, you can't really be mad. Like, especially if you've cheated before, you can't really be mad. Or if your team has a history of cheating at some point, you know, you can't be mad.
The victory by Joy Boy that seems to literally be set in stone in the One Piece world. But of course,
I'm a little upset we're not using the obvious trick that he did. He clearly did a genjutsu on the referees. Y'all talking about the hand of God. I'm kind of thinking he used the what's it, the Sukiyami or whatever, now I can't even talk now. That genjutsu that Madara was trying to use. You know, he used the Sukiyami. I know I just said that wrong, but that's what he was using. He was using genjutsu on the referees to get away with that play. That's the real culprit, not the hand of God. It wasn't God. See, y'all blaming God. See, God's not gonna help people cheat, man. It's really genjutsu. It's genjutsu. This Melon King said sloppy seconds from Messi.
Of course, this interview was published after the first appearance of the poneglyphs in the One Piece story, so I just thought it was a little bit of an interesting tidbit considering what we're about to get into now. Now, the Argentinian player that scored the Hand of God goal, Diego Maradona's full name is Diego Armando Maradona. Now, the name Diego, and this is a huge clue for when it comes to A Song of Ice and Fire books and stuff with the Jamie Lannister name. Jamie means supplanter. The name Diego also means supplanter. So, someone who might overthrow an evil god, chosen by God to overthrow an evil god power, I think could be at play. Armando is a pretty crazy name where it actually means small army man, a soldier. And where it really gets crazy is the name Maradona actually means Lady of the Sea. So this idea that the sea creatures or the people of the sea, the fishermen, are trying to reclaim their spot in the sun, or maybe use the sun as a weapon on the surface and they're safe in the water, maybe. But I think there's a lot going on.
So I'm assuming the suffix, if I'm using the right word, the suffix. I know there's a prefix and a suffix, but I don't know if I'm using it right in this context. The suffix donna, right? Because you got like a prima donna, but the suffix donna is usually like have something to do with like a woman, right? So if meta also means joy, or are we talking like a joy woman, a joy girl? I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there.
As I've kind of said in other videos of mine, if the red line was destroyed, how the popular theories kind of propose that it will be dealt with, that would cause massive flooding on a global scale and essentially flood the entire world. And really the only people that would kind of benefit and live through that would be the fishermen. But that's for future videos. And I've seen a lot of stuff kind of going back to all the Shandia and Skypiea god sacrifices and stuff like that. And When it comes to Skypiea and Shandia, obviously there are tons of Aztec parallels. This idea that the Aztec culture and Mesoamerica culture is kind of being highlighted and shown in these arcs. Well, the stadium that the Hand of God game took place in was actually Aztec Stadium. More specifically, Estadio Azteca, located in Mexico City. So I think that really ties into this idea of maybe which party was chosen by God in the past when it came to the winged people in Shandia and maybe other godly races and all sorts of stuff in the One Piece world's history. And all of these winged things, including the Hermes shoes, I think is Oda's kind of tying them back to this victory statue, the Nike of Samothrace again, where it's a one-winged angel type figure made out of marble, Parian marble. But going back to Diego Maradona, it still kind of gets crazier. Diego Maradona's nickname is El Pibe de Oro, the Golden Boy. So kind of gives me vibes of maybe where the name Oro Jackson came from, or Oars maybe. Obviously, Oda is playing with a million things with those words. I'm not saying that it's just from this, but the fact that it actually ties into this, mind-boggling. Obviously, Diego Maradona was a true 10. He wore the number 10 on the field. Luffy has lots of references to being 10 or an X, Diaz, all that stuff. And just to get next level kind of crazy, kind of deal with the straw hat and maybe that kind of being a symbol that maybe directs where the favor from God is being sent, where that energy of good luck is being sent to, is whoever is in possession of the hat, kind of holding the ball, like dribbling it in soccer or basketball or whatever. I think that Oda is kind of using that as maybe a way to tie being chosen by God and victory into a symbol. And obviously the straw hat represents, you know, the idea of a sun disk and the halos that sun deities have and crowns and stuff like that. But I also think he's playing around with the circular shape of the straw hat and, you know, various times Luffy becomes a balloon to be a ball or rubber ball type thing. When it comes to ancient cultures, somehow the earliest artifacts that have officially been found on the earth this time are rubber balls. They were put in grave sites. They were put as they were used for sports, but they were used for all sorts of ritual sacrifices and symbolic offerings to the gods to gain favor all the time. And I think Oda's kind of taken that to the extreme here, to where this kind of straw hat ball, which we even in 1054 we saw Shanks with the whole equating the straw hat to the sun stuff, and I really think that, I think it's more the moon maybe, but the idea that the hat is related to some sort of celestial body, whether it be the moon, the sun, or other planets, I think is being played with here about as far as it can go. And then ultimately, just to kind of tie it back to some grounded One Piece kind of ideas, I think for Oda, the idea of being chosen by God is a deus ex machina. Literally, the end of Lord of the Rings is a deus ex machina, where they're saved by the eagles when they're taken from the volcano in Mordor. Tolkien himself has stated that was, you know, a deus ex machina to have a happy ending. And I think that Oda kind of has very much the same kind of mindset when it comes to the story in the One Piece world. I think that no matter how outnumbered and outmatched and how powerful the enemies are, as a author and a manga artist, especially for children's genres, there's an inherent kind of desire and want to need to have a happy ending. And sometimes that boils down to, even if it...
Sometimes I wish Oda wouldn't give us a happy ending, right? Kind of like back in Sabaody, right? That wasn't really a happy ending when the Straw Hat split, you know? But I thought that was a great moment to add some depth to the Straw Hats, right? You know, because now they all on their own. They all want to get stronger individually, and they gotta all get stronger by themselves. You know, Luffy go on his own adventure, you know, to save his brother by himself. He meets Jinbei, who at that time wasn't a Straw Hat, but becomes a Straw Hat, right? So he's literally like still with his Straw Hat crew when he was with Jinbei, but Jinbei just wasn't officially a member at that point. But yeah, man, like I kind of wanted that in Wano. Like I wanted Kaido to win at that point. Like I thought it would have made I don't know, y'all. I made a lot of videos during that time before the whole fight between Luffy and Kaido, talking about how I think Kaido should win and then Luffy wins like later in the story. But you know, it happened, so you know I don't want to keep trying to go back to that.
Takes the author needing to save the characters sometimes. And we've kind of seen that throughout the story with Oda's hesitancy to kill off characters. But really, I actually think that Luffy in the story marks people to be given favor by God and to live through things. But that'll be for future videos. But I think when it comes to Shonen Jump especially, there's a need for a happy ending maybe. And I don't think it's going to be all happy and all sorts of great things like that. I do think, though, that, you know, there's some sort of writing will that, you know, wants to have a happy story. But I think that that idea kind of extends and that will transcends all forms of media, because the idea of falling in love with your characters and letting them control the world and dictate the actions and stuff is great. That's how, you know, every writer wants to work at, you know, have the characters be so alive they're making their own decisions type deal. But at the end of the day, I think there's also a drive that you want to see these characters happy and survive and you know, succeed in their endeavors. And I think that Oda's constantly kind of battling with himself between that devil that wants to, you know, blow everything up, and then the angel that kind of wants to have a happy children's story in a lot of ways. But to end this video, I think Oda plays around a ton with language, obviously, but with the way words sound. And watching that clip of I didn't play the sound, but if you listen to the sound on YouTube, the way that the British announcers pronounce the word referees sounds exactly like reveries. So I looked into the word for referee a little bit deeper than I guess I ever had before. It actually stems from the Latin word refero, which was to bear or carry. That's what pharaoh means. Looking more and more at the definitions, a lot of them are like I retreat, I tell, recount, or narrate, I bring back or restore or renew or revive, repeat, all sorts of definitions like that when it comes to the base word for referee. But this idea of bringing something back and retrieving something, I think, is at play across the One Piece universe, especially when it kind of comes to the idea of being a torchbearer with continuing wills and perhaps trying to accomplish goals in the future that were unable to be accomplished in the past. Stuff like that, kind of being a torchbearer of wills and maybe carrying a will back to its original source type of deal, or maybe original resting place. And I think the idea of being a judge or a bishop type deal when it comes to deciding the fate of, you know, the world and mankind and stuff like that, that maybe in the One Piece world, that power has been taken over by perhaps someone who, you know, is not so deserving of that favor. And the story we've seen is kind of reclaiming that in a lot of ways. But going back to the idea of the straw hat, this object or ball that essentially has dictated the entirety of the story from chapter 1. You know, Shanks giving Luffy the straw hat and telling him, you know, return this to me, is kind of almost like pass him the ball, you know, give me the ball back later on when we're closer to the goal maybe. I think all
low-key though, like really, I think Shanks is going to die, right? Because of that statement where he says return the straw hat. I don't think Luffy's ever gonna give that straw hat back to Shanks, right? I don't think he's gonna give it back because he can't. He's not gonna be able to give it back to Shanks, in my opinion. You know, that hat is meant for Luffy, not Shanks. You know what I mean? So to me, it just wouldn't make sense for him to give it back to Shanks, especially if he's the one carrying the will of that hat. You know, like I said, I think Shanks' job is done. His job was to find Luffy, right? He gave him the hat, right? Like the will of the hat. And you could even say Shanks gave Luffy the Gummo Gummo no Mi, which he gave Shanks, he gave Luffy that will as well. I mean, he didn't give it to Luffy, but he unintentionally gave it to Luffy. Because I ultimately think the Gummo Gummo no Mi was intended for Luffy. I think the will of that devil fruit was looking for Luffy specifically, and Shanks's job was to bring that devil fruit to Luffy, right? So same with the hat as well. You know, you could say the same thing with that hat. And so I don't think Luffy is going to give that hat back next time he sees Shanks, because I don't think he'll be able to give Shanks the hat back. But it could also play out to where Shanks doesn't die and Shanks tells Luffy to keep it as well. So it could play out that way too. I kind of like the idea of Shanks dying. I think it just kind of adds to the overall story. You know what I mean? It adds to Luffy's character. I think if Blackbeard is the one to kill Shanks, especially since Blackbeard and Shanks have that history, right? It adds more stakes for Luffy to defeat Blackbeard, because now it's like, bro, you're the reason why Ace died. You know, like Blackbeard didn't kill Ace, but he captured Ace and gave Ace up to die. If it, you know, and if he kills Shanks, bruh, like how despicable will Blackbeard be? You know, it adds to the need for Luffy to defeat Blackbeard, because Blackbeard took away, like Blackbeard literally takes away Luffy's ability to keep his promise to Shanks. You know, like just imagine Luffy can't keep his promise to Shanks because of Blackbeard. And Luffy usually always keeps promises. Like Luffy said he'll liberate Wano. As impossible as it seemed, that's what he did. He said he'd do all these other things. He'll get rid of Crocodile from Alabasta. He did that. Every time Luffy said he'd do something, he normally always succeeds at doing it, you know? So just imagine one point, like just imagine this one time he can't keep a promise because Blackbeard takes that away. He takes that option for him to, he takes that ability for Luffy to keep that promise away. And, you know, by killing Shanks, and now Luffy can't fulfill that promise. So, and then Luffy keeps the hat like he's supposed to keep it. So, you know, that's why I'm always a big supporter of the idea of Blackbeard killing Shanks. It's not because I hate Shanks or anything, but it just, to me, it just makes sense for the story. But, you know, for story purposes, but yeah.
All this is huge when it comes to what the point of the Straw Hat is, and exactly why it was given to Luffy and for what purpose. And this kind of refereeing stuff, I really think actually ties into the odd stuff, you know, considering it's kind of, it seems like it is a signal for fate to kind of either have a blind spot for who's under the hat, or to be highlighted as maybe a signal for, you know, God or Oda or whatever to constantly throw their hand in to interfere with fate and, you know, steer it towards a happier conclusion. The Straw Hat kind of being that identifier of favor, I think is...
Bro, that's Luffy's real ability. I think that's Luffy's, like, true most OP ability. It's fate, you know. I feel as though he just, his existence just, it goes... I don't want to say it goes against fate, but it just, fate favors Luffy's existence, you know. I always talk about like that moment in Logtown where Buggy is about to execute Luffy, and then Buggy gets struck by like lightning. Now the general belief in that moment was Dragon, right? Like a lot of people say, nah, that was just Dragon interfered. But Cause I remember I made a post and I was like, the biggest plot device in One Piece was a lightning bolt hitting Buggy, and everybody was like, it wasn't a plot, it was Dragon interfering. And I'm like, bro, the fact that even if I gave you that, even if I said yes, it was Dragon that interfered in that, you know, because a lot of people believe Dragon has like a weather control ability as well. I mean, it's a lot of evidence showing that he probably does, but you know, that's not what I'm talking about. But even if I give you that, the fact that Dragon was there, to save his son, that was pretty much his whole purpose in Logtown. I mean, it might not have been his purpose, but as a plot device, him being there, that was a plot device. That was a plot device. I'm sorry. Dragon being there at that specific time when Buggy was about to actually succeed at killing Luffy, and Luffy knew it, Dragon just happens to be there. Come on now. That's a plot device. Regardless how you cut it up, it's a plot device. It's a plot device. I'm not mad at it because I'm not somebody who like, I don't think plot devices are bad. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people look at like plot armor. It's not a bad thing. Any form of fiction or any like movie, any story, right? Any movie, story, TV show, whatever, all of it has a plot device. You know, it's all plot device. You know, plot device is a normal, natural thing in the art of storytelling. A lot of people would act like it's like a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Now, don't get me wrong, there is bad plot device. You know what I'm saying? But plot device in itself isn't bad. You know, it's necessary. You know, it's necessary in order for the main character to eventually succeed at whatever he's meant to succeed at. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you watch a movie and you know you get like a car chase and then the guy almost gets hit by a car that's flipping over, but he manages to avoid it. It's plot device. The fact that he didn't get hit with it, you know, or it stops like shy of where he's at, it's plot device. Yeah. So it's not. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that these things are bad. It's just saying like you got good plot device and you got bad plot device. You know, it's just a matter of how it's executed, I guess. You know, when I posted that thing about Buggy trying to execute Luffy, and when I said that was plot device, a lot of people was mad because they assumed that I mean it was a bad thing. I just said it's the biggest plot device in One Piece. I didn't say it was a bad plot device. You know,
is a major aspect of the One Piece story. Since the moment Luffy showed up on the scene, the Gorosei have had a picture of him in their hands. Since the moment Emu showed up, you know, they had a picture of him in their hands. Every single important player in the One Piece world notices Luffy. And I think a lot of them even say it. They noticed the straw hat first. And I think that kind of being a huge clue as to why so many figures in the One Piece world pay attention to Luffy. I really wonder if it's kind of like because the hat, you know, marks him almost like a, you know, the brand from Berserk or something, kind of marks this individual to be seen by the gods, to be in their eyesight all the time. And
the only reason why I kind of disagree with the hat being the thing, I just think Luffy was fated for all this before he got the hat. I think him getting the hat was part of fate itself. It was fate shining down on him, right? Him meeting Shanks, getting the hat, getting the devil fruit. I think that was all fate working in Luffy's favor, you know? So I don't think that, like, I get what you're saying, and it's, you know, it's not a bad theory or a bad argument or at all, because, you know, I see some validity in what you're saying, but I think him getting the hat was fate, like smiling down on him, you know? Now let's say if he got the hat, let's say, cause I think he got the devil fruit before he even got before Shanks gave him the hat. Yeah, he did. He ate the devil fruit and then he almost died, you know, Shanks saves him. And then Shanks ended up leaving. He asked to go with him and then Shanks gave him the hat, like, hey, become a strong pirate, give it back when you become strong. The fact, you know, just based on that, I think fate worked in his favor in getting the devil fruit and then eventually the hat. You know what I mean? Now, let's say if he would have got the hat first and then the devil fruit, then I might actually agree with you. You know what I mean? But I think fate has always just worked in Luffy's favor because it's just, you know, he's Joy Boy. I think he's always been Joy Boy.
And to attract their attention, almost like a golden lure or something. And to me, it's all, you know, when you're watching a soccer game, football game, any sports game, you know, for soccer, for instance, there's 22 people on the field, but one of them has the ball, and everyone's watching that person with the ball. And I believe that the straw hat is that soccer star attacking with the ball and kind of going on the offensive to score or accomplish a goal in some way. And I believe for Oda specifically, he's kind of using the straw hat as.
Bro, that's that with no context. With no context, this is a funny Again, this is just my dirty mind. I'm sorry, y'all. Like, today is just weird. It's a weird day. Y'all got me. It's just Adam. I blame Adam for this, man. But just no context. You just look at this panel and you see Shanks saying this. I came.
For Oda specifically, he's kind of using the straw hat as
Oh,
the
man.
ball for who he has chosen to be the main character. Is the straw hat is on who Oda has chosen to be the victor. Literally, maybe chosen by Goda for victory in the form of being the main character of the story. This hand of God idea, this halo of favor, all these things could, I think, be Oda representing that by donning Luffy with this hat, kind of this shining star or beacon to highlight Luffy and to tell his story since the beginning. Now, having said all this, obviously Luffy is right now the in-story Nika and all sorts of things like that. But ultimately, Nika is a fishman, and I think Jinbei is kind of a huge representation of it, and this idea that the fish people trying to take over the land and reclaim the sun, especially, you know, evolution coming from fish to apes to man to, you know, whatever, starting in a primordial ooze into water and stuff like that, and maybe returning to that, I think is perhaps some factions of the One Piece world what they're trying to do, whether it be with a giant flood or what.
Nika a fishman. That one's new to me. That one's new to me.
Whatever means they may try to reclaim the top surface of the world and the sunlight surface, including maybe playing around with the idea of flooding the surface with intense heat waves, you know, from the sun, kind of melting and destroying all life on the surface. I think, you know, even with Jinbei, with the whole, you know, sun in his chest and all that stuff, all of it, there's a lot of stuff going on there, but the idea of maybe also having some underhanded cheating aspect to this, and that maybe in the past this Nika figure was tricked or betrayed or cheated in some fashion. I am going to touch on other videos. I have some videos working behind the scenes more to this fishman idea. It was just, you know, shocking to me the name Maradona meant Lady of the Sea and could perhaps being played with by Oda for this entire Oda created mythology. And with that, my name is Adam Rakai. If you liked the video, please like.
All right, shout out to Adam. Make sure y'all go give his video a like. Maybe also comment. You know, help him in the algorithm and all that good stuff right there. You know. I mean, that was a lot. You know, it's a lot to talk about. So you know, I don't really want to go. It was interesting, definitely an interesting video. You know, I never really knew about this Maradona guy. You know, I didn't know how I guess impactful that play was in sports history, right? It obviously seemed like a big moment. It won them the FIFA championship and everything. It pissed off a bunch of Europeans, you know, like you know, he cheated. It's like, hey, it is what it is, you know. So, yeah. I mean, I don't really know what to add to that. You know, it was a lot of stuff, a lot of information. You know, pretty interesting stuff though. Definitely interesting stuff. You know, like the thing with the sandals, like the connection with Hermes, that I thought that was interesting, right? You know, like Luffy does wear a lot of sandals and stuff. It made me think, like, what if Luffy was able to spawn some wings on his feet, right? Like he did with those goggles. You know, that'd be pretty interesting. That'd be pretty interesting. I kind of brought up this idea of the potential of Luffy being able to spawn items, right? Or not necessarily spawn them out of nothing. Like, he'll probably need something, kind of like those goggles I assume he made with his hair. He just kind of used his ability to manipulate, like, rubberize things and turn things into other stuff maybe. So yeah, that you know, there's definitely some interesting stuff. But yeah, that's all I really got for the video, guys. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Also subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications. Also comment down below your thoughts on the video. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? What did you agree with that was said in this video? Also, make sure you guys are following me on Twitch. Follow me on Twitch so you could engage with me live when I do these reactions. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook if you guys are trying to get at me directly. And follow me on I'm just losing it. That's a lot of information. Also, join the Discord. So if you want to send me content to react to, join the Discord. If you want to become part of a future discussion stream, you must be a Discord member. Or if you just want to talk to me, that's where I'm usually the most active at. But yeah, y'all, that is pretty much the video. And it's your boy Sean P, the Bluff God. It was a good video. Good video. A little longer than most, but it was still packed with a lot of interesting information. Also, the link will also be in the description box as well, so y'all go show Adam some love. Anyway, y'all, it's your boy Sean P, the Bluff God, and I'm out of here. Peace.